You're listening to the main event with Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. on WHIP.
215-204-WHIP is the number. Time in the studio is 11:37. Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. taking you up until noon Eastern time, where the Temple Sports Hour will come your way, all on WHIP Radio, all via iHeartRadio. Okay, Eagles go down. They suffer their second loss of the year. This time it occurred out west, and that was in Arizona in the desert, the site of the Super Bowl this year. And a man that was on the call for Westwood One Radio also is the voice of the Philadelphia Phillies, and that's Tom McCarthy. Joins us right now to talk some Philadelphia Eagles. Tom, Zach, and Chase here in Philly. How are you?
Guys, I'm doing great. How are you?
Well, we're doing great, and we appreciate a few minutes. So, tough loss yesterday for the Eagles. They go down to the Cardinals. I had two problems in this game. I'll take them with you in order. First, let's start off with the play call. It was 3rd and inches. It's a shotgun run to LaShawn McCoy. Thought that was a little bit of a bad play call by Chip Kelly.
Well, I think the biggest thing he should have done, and we talked about this on the air, was that I thought he should have got Foles go under center and just hand the ball off to McCoy, or even do a quarterback sneak. Now, he obviously said that, last year they tried it against the Cowboys and it didn't work, so they weren't going to do it again. I still think it would have worked, obviously. I think it was there for the taking on so many levels. You've got LaShawn McCoy. He's averaging all these yards per carry. I think you just give it to him at that point. But he explained after the game that he had another reason or had another feeling as to what he was going to do. So you got to just kind of go with what the coach thinks.
It's both of their losses in San Francisco and Arizona yesterday. Both the times in the red zone, they couldn't walk away with some touchdowns. It happened up against San Francisco. Happened yesterday again. I had no problem with them taking the points just because how great that defense was playing at that time. They had Carson Palmer under control for most of the day. But then you come back the other end, and Brown breaks the coverage of Allen and Carey Williams. What happened on that play? How'd they get burned so badly for the touchdown to give the Cardinals the win?
Yeah, I think he just buzzed right past him, guys, honestly. That was the thing that was so surprising is that, they allowed him to get beyond the coverage. From a safety standpoint, you've got to be able to seal that off, particularly if the cornerback's going to give it off to you. That's just a busted coverage, and it's one of the more basic busted coverages, I think. I do the games with Rod Woodson, and he was absolutely floored as a former cornerback that somebody would have been that wide open that late in the game. It was shocking, to be honest with you.
Tom McCarthy joins us right now. He called the Eagles-Cardinals game for Westwood One. And Tom, after the game, Chip Kelly was asked about the Chris Polk run on 2nd down that forced a 3rd and short in which the Eagles could not convert. That led to the Cody Parkey field goal. And he talked about the Eagles not getting a replay that showed Polk and the spot of the football. And this has been a problem with visiting teams getting replay reviews on the road. Did they play that replay on the big board there, if you do remember?
No, I don't remember them doing it. They could have. The replays that we had, which were the game replays, I thought it was too close. I thought it was one of those just like baseball, whether it be call stands, call confirms. I didn't think that it was going to be there was going to be enough to show, at least with the replays we had. Now, I've seen different ones since that looked a little more obvious. But the replays we had, it was tough to tell where his knee went down and where he stretched with the ball. So I'm sort of in the same boat that he is. I don't know if we saw the same replays that everybody else had the opportunity to see to make that decision. We saw the same things I think his coaching staff saw.
Nick Foles kind of continued on the trend of just having an up-and-down performance. He finishes 36 of 62, 411 yards, 2 touchdowns to 2 picks. And, Tom, it's kind of been the same story all season long. He makes some beautiful throws, but he also makes some baffling mistakes. What'd you think of Foles' performance yesterday?
Well, I thought he was okay in the first half. The second interception, the first interception I thought was okay. I just don't think he saw Cromartie. The second interception, it looked like Riley Cooper ran the wrong route, and whether that was something that Foles screwed up or Cooper screwed up, I'm not sure. I just think they threw the ball too much, to be honest with you guys.
Yeah.
62 times is an awful lot. I know at the end they had a throw just to kind of get down the field, but I don't usually go with the complaining football player. But LaShawn McCoy probably had him. Now, not having Sproles, I think was a huge deal. We talked about that during our pregame show before the start of the ball game. I think that was a huge deal for them, not having him at their disposal. I just think it changes the whole complexion of the team because he's such a weapon, not only on special teams. I mean, even look at special teams and how Macklin handled those 2 bounced punts. I mean, he was fortunate that those balls didn't bounce right off him and, go free. So I thought they should have run the ball a little bit more. But you know what? If they would have been able to explode for more offensively, then we would have said, wow, this high-powered offense is really a lot of fun to watch.
I know McCoy's been up and down this year, but he was coming off a good game entering the bye up against the Giants, his best game of the year. And, he did fumble up against the Rams. But you said it. Darren Sproles wasn't in there. They only run the ball 21 times compared to 62 times in the air. I just don't get why Chip Kelly didn't go out there and run the ball more on Sunday.
Yeah, I thought he should have run the ball more. Now, I'm not as much of an expert on the Eagles as everybody else is that covers the team just because, I don't see them every single week in person. I watch as much as I can, but I don't see them every single week. But I watched that Giants game, and that was as dominating performance offensively and defensively as I've seen this year. I mean, obviously, with the shutout, it was a big deal. But, I really thought they would run it more. I really did. I mean, it was a very sloppy first half. There were a lot of penalties. Everybody seemed to get out of the rhythm. But I really did think going in that they were going to run the ball a little bit more.
Tom McCarthy joins us, the play-by-play voice in Westwood 1, did the Eagles game the other day. Also does the Phillies, as you could hear him a lot on Comcast Sportsnet. And Tom, let's just get back to Foles. I understand no one's going to turn the ball over twice in a season like he did the year ago. Things like that are just not going to be replicated the next year. But you do have a quarterback that has had a lot of turnovers. He fumbled the ball twice this year, made some really bad decisions. Chase said he was inconsistent. I agree. He's been up and down all year. But I've noticed a few times this year on his interceptions, he's been favoring that back leg. How do you fix that as a quarterback?
Well, Kerry Collins did that, I thought, for his entire career. Jay Cutler does that an awful lot right now for the Chicago Bears. I think it's continuing to work at it. I mean, he's young enough that, and I think he's talented enough that he'll have the ability to make those adjustments. Matthew Stafford is another guy that has very odd mechanics when it comes to quarterbacking. So you just work on it as best as you can. You've got to get the footwork right. You've got to get the mechanics of the arm right if you're going to sustain anything in this league. I think he can do it. I really do. But I do think that it's going to be an ongoing process. Last year he had such a good year with 27 touchdowns. He's not a finished product, and I think he realizes that. If he didn't realize it, I sometimes get the sense that Jay Cutler thinks he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He doesn't have to tinker with it. I think Nick Foles is different. And I'm not saying Jay Cutler just because they got whooped yesterday by the Patriots. I just think that, sometimes he feels like he's a finished product when he's not. I don't think Foles thinks that he's a finished product. I think that he realizes that, he's got some work to do in order to be successful in this league.
Tom, Jeremy Maclin has been knocked in years previous because of his durability. He missed a year last year due to a torn ACL, but he gets popped yesterday, only misses a couple of plays, comes back on a big third down and catches a big ball to convert for a first down. Then he gets tossed right into a Gatorade table, comes right back, has a big touchdown, huge game, 12 catches for $187 and 2 touchdowns. He's really emerging into a number one wide receiver for this Eagles team.
Yeah, I thought he was great yesterday. I also thought it was good that Jordan Matthews got involved a little bit more yesterday, too. I think that's going to be key for him to take a lot of the responsibility, not as being the number one guy, but eventually being the number one guy as a receiver. But, yeah, I thought it was nice to see Maclin do that. I like the fact that they gave him a chance to be athletic in certain situations. I think that's a big deal for a receiver. It's just like Larry Fitzgerald, on that big touchdown run. Give him a chance to be athletic to kind of show his abilities.
Tom, as broadcasters at the college level, I find it very impressive that you go from broadcasting nearly 162 baseball games on TV to then doing football games on the radio and also doing basketball games during the winter season. Just take us through some of the adjustments you have to make with both your preparation and your on-air delivery.
Well, I think the biggest thing is the pace of football is a whole lot different than baseball is. And you can even say that for college basketball, too, but I don't think as much. So I think that there's a little different tempo to the way game. There's a little different cadence to the way you're calling a game. Now, I'm sort of mixing and matching this year. I've got 8 games on TV on CBS, 8 NFL games on CBS, and then the rest on radio. So going back and forth with this is a little bit more, there's a little bit more adjustments than, let's say, going back and forth from baseball to football. But I like it. I feel like it keeps my mind fresh. I feel like it keeps my abilities fresh. I learn something every single time I'm doing it, and I think that's important. And I've always done this. I've always worked, all the sports, and I like that because I think it forces me to think a little differently, and it also forces me to see what I'm doing right, what I need to work on, all those things from sport to sports.
Zach Gelb and Chase Sr. here with you, talking to Tom McCarthy. A few more questions before we let Tom go. Hey, this Arians and Bowles story out in Arizona has really been something special. I don't know how they do it, but they just keep on winning games. Last year they got 10, but they just missed out of the playoffs because of how competitive the NFC West is. But Bruce Arians went to Temple, coached Todd Bowles. Bowles was a captain on his squad, and we all know Bowles was the defensive coordinator for the Eagles after they fired Castillo. But they just continue to win games, Tom. They've been impressive.
Yeah, he's got a little he's got some presence to him. Arians does. The way he handles the guys is a little different than some of the other coaches around the National Football League. Their defense is really good, even though they don't have Dockett, they don't have Shaughnessy, they don't have John Abraham. They're really good. They were without Patrick Peterson for most of that second half, but they made adjustments, and I like their receiving crew. Not only Fitzgerald. I mean, it's easy to say that, but Michael Floyd, the Brown guy who just blew past the Eagles yesterday. I mean, I like their receiving core. I think they're going to be good for some time. I mean, there's some big tests for them up ahead, including against the San Francisco 49ers again, against the Seahawks again. But I do think that they're built to, possibly, make a run. And who knows? They could be the first team to host a Super Bowl.
Final one here before we let you run. Madison Bumgarner was just brilliant last night on the baseball front. He dominates every single time the Giants are in the World Series. Giants are 1 win away from being a dynasty. Is this thing over in 6 in Kansas City, or do we see the big-time imperative Game 7?
I think we go Game 7, guys. I still think the Giants are going to win it, but I think we do go Game 7, and I think Bumgarner's going to come in for a few innings in that Game 7. I think it's been a pretty good series. There's been certain things that have been that have been long. There have been certain moves that I think have been entertaining to watch. I think there's a key moment to this series right now. It was bases loaded, Game 4, tense up, 1 out, sharply hit ground ball to short. Escobar moves to his right a step and a half. If you look at the replay, Pence was only 1 step out of the batter's box at that point. He comes home to get to shore out, and he's playing halfway. Like, he has to make the decision. Do I go for the double play? Do I go for the out at the plate? I would have gone for the double play in that spot. I think they would have turned it, and that would have changed that game and the complexion of that ball game.
Tom, great stuff as always. We appreciate it. I'm sure we'll see you at the Leo Core Center a few times this year for the college basketball. Thanks so much. We appreciate a few minutes today.
All right, guys. Have a great day.
You too. Tom McCarthy joining us right there on the hotline. Philly's #1 college radio station, WHIP.